So Lama Sherab Gyaltsen Rinpoche died. And he was from Melodious Dharma Sound, which I listen to sometimes, and they're odd. They are neat but odd. And you want to listen to something that just gets into your head and it's not as like, so they were having a problem with their sound quality, which they finally fixed. But they do these little videos, and I would play them in the background while I was doing prostrations or something. And I never really watched the videos. And I saw that the videos were generating the same kind of visualizations that I was having without watching the videos. And I don't know if this tape really exists, but sometimes I thought they did this thing where they were just like floating and you would hear them in stereo and they would just be, and all of the different guys would be like floating around and in different places. Some of them would be saying it this way and some of them would be saying it that way. I'm trying to find that tape, but it started to dawn on me it might not actually exist. They might have gotten into my head. They've made a bunch of tapes. They're all on YouTube, and you can find them through YouTube Music if you want to. And they're just a lot of them for removing obstacles from the path in various different ways, because there's a lot of obstacles on the path. And so I used to be somebody that was like, you got to do it yourself or it doesn't count, But if you're turning, so you've got a device and it's hooked up to a resource, and you're turning that resource into Dharma chants, you're turning that resource into sutras, you're turning that resource into Dharma education, and it's just going on in the background, and you listen to it as much as you can. Otherwise, you got to pay attention to the ways of a householder and do the things that you've got to do in your life. And but in my case, other people might be listening. They might be hearing it. And another thing I did was I replaced the Amitabha that I used to have that was an incense burner that got lost in 92 with, let's see if I can, with her. And she's got Amitabha on her forehead. Yeah, did you see her? Because I can't monitor that when I turn it around. But anyway, so that was, she came in really nice and strong in her own little box. And so we got Kuan Yin, who looks a lot like these dolls I used to have when I was a little girl, the strawberry shortcake dolls. This is a strawberry shortcake Buddha, but she came in, she brought color to my visualizations. When I was doing my visualizations this morning, they were much more colorful. And so these things have, these Buddha forms have power. These Buddha, when you're doing Buddha forms in the music, I've been reading the Great Liberation Sutra, I believe is what it's called. Let me see. And in that one, you just recite the Sutra of Great Liberation. And you just recite a whole bunch of names of bodhisattvas and the different Buddhas. And this was a teaching my guru gave me very briefly, that everything's a Buddha. So if you have respect for everything, because he does this, he was Nyingma and mostly taught Bon. The entry to learning Bon is lower than the Entry to Learning Nyingma or Kagyu or any of the other things that he taught. And but that's because Bon was the test. If you get really good at Bon, they ask you to go beyond. And but sometimes it's something you can fall back to if you're like gender disqualified or so other kinds of disqualifications. So I was studying all this Rime stuff, and I feel bad about saying that I wanted to give up that method in order to be. I felt like I needed to be more effective by choosing one method, but it was explained to me that as a woman, I was doing the only method I could be effective in. And so there was that kind of thing. But there are all these resources online that you can listen to and study from, or just add more depth to your Dharma study in your daily practice and stuff like that. Put this stuff on while you're cleaning the house or while you're doing. I got out my embroidery and was listening to the Cyber Sangha podcast, and things like that are really helpful to have. And I've been looking for things like this for a long time, and sometimes it takes a while to find the right thing, but maybe what you found is also the right thing. It's just not as enjoyable.